Okay. So a very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us today for today's Live Well Live webinar, all about how we manage cravings. And we're going to start by doing a couple of introductions, finding out how you've got on over the last week, if you were with us last week or the week before, and really just tuning in with what's going on for you. As you know, we have a couple of polls that we share with you during the webinar, and they're completely anonymous. So just for instructions, I'm Ruth Taylor. I'm a nutritionist with Boots Online Doctor, also a registered nurse and health and wellness coach. I've been working with the Boots Online Doctor service for the last 4.5 years, maybe coming up to 5 now. And we absolutely love the opportunity to meet you in this webinar scenario every week. And really, the whole purpose of us being here is so that we can, as much as possible, answer your questions and give you some support on your weight loss journeys. So, a very warm welcome to everybody joining us today. I'm based in Hampshire. It is truly disgusting. The heavens have opened and it's like a monsoon outside. So, apologies if you can hear heavy rain during the webinar. Sanam, over to you. Do say hello and very warm welcome to you today.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. I'm Sanam Hussain, and I'm a pharmacist independent prescriber and also one of the weight loss leads here at Boots Online Doctors. Um, and I've been working here for about, I think, about same as Ruth, maybe a little bit, a tiny bit less, maybe about 4 years now, 4.5-ish years as well. I've been working as part of the weight loss lead since, and love to see how people respond to these webinars and lots of information we get from our sort of people, participants and stuff, and always quite excited to see what's lying ahead.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. So let's hear from you. Thanks, Sanam. And we're joined today by Chantal, who is here helping us with all IT queries or sharing links. So thank you so much to Chantal for being here as well. There's a lot of work for our support to do, we know, so we really appreciate you being here. So before we begin, let's take a moment to reflect on how your week's been. Have you had any wins or positive changes over the week? And don't forget, success isn't just about the number on the scales. It can be whether you've planned your meals more consistently, whether you've maybe moved a little bit more. Maybe actually it's just the process of thinking about what's going to happen next and putting some time in your diary so that you can do some self-care. Or perhaps you made a healthier choice when you found you were really tired or really stressed. Or maybe you managed to just keep going when things weren't actually going that well. So, all of those we would count as wins. And I think it's actually really important for us to think about what those wins are, because if we rely on the scales, we all know that can derail us very, very quickly. Last time, last week, we were talking, I think if anyone was here with us, do say hi again. We were talking all about habits and how small actions that we repeat consistently can lead to lasting change. And this is a really important, both from the doing well switch and the doing not so well switch, because many times our habits that we've established over years sometimes can be the things that trip us up. So it's really important for us to be thinking about those all the way through this whole journey. Some of you may still be actively losing weight, while others of you may now be focusing on maintaining your weight loss. That's absolutely fine. You're very welcome at whatever stage you're in. Some of you will be slap bang in the middle of your journey. And we know that for many, maintenance can be one of those stages which almost comes with a bit of surprise, because the work can almost start beginning again in a way with a different mindset, with a different awareness. So, what we want for all of us is not to be in this diet mindset. We want us to be thinking about building a way of eating and living that actually can help us long term to be happy, to feel healthy, to have energy. So, let's think about that. This is really important. And cravings is a big part of this journey. So I'm just going to have a quick check in and see what everybody's been doing this week. So, Deborah, you said you've made some healthier choices after putting on weight last week, a little out of your target range. Concerned you're losing it. I guess that means you're losing your motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Don't worry about it. I think the more we worry, it can feel like a bit overwhelming, can't it? Eleni, thank you for saying you've had a good week. You've been eating too little. This seemed to slow weight loss. So you've eaten more good quality food and lost more weight. That is music to my ears. So well done. Less snacking, Scott. Well done. And trying to change habits. Yeah, And we just have to keep practicing. Don't forget, a new habit can take weeks or sometimes months to really nail. And also, when we're stressed and tired, it can become slightly harder. So well done. People putting in loads of effort here. Thank you for sharing because it's motivating for us, but it's also motivating for one another. People have improved their water intake. Well done. Better balance on your plate. Well done. Steady weight loss. Brilliant. Nausea and heartburn improving. Brilliant. Somebody's had an awful week. So really good to know you're here. Well done for being here, Samantha. You're struggling with cravings. Let's see if we can help you. Thank you so much, everyone, for your comments. It's really helpful to us, isn't it, Sanam? And also really helps us
Yeah.
understand what's going on for you all, I would say. So let's move on. Today, we're going to think a little bit about cravings. We've got a poll coming up towards the end of this slide. It's completely anonymous. It helps us understand what's going on for you. That's why you run them. And also maybe helps you understand a little bit more or put some thinking into what might be going on for you. So today we're thinking all about understanding cravings. I'd say most people really know, put your hand up in the room if you've experienced cravings. And cravings are completely different to hunger. It's about a sudden desire to eat a specific food. For me, Sanam, we were talking about this earlier, we're both a little bit chocolatey people. So chocolate might be the thing we crave. It might be that we want something sweet after dinner. It could be a packet of crisps when we're stressed. It could be that we find ourselves standing in front of the fridge even though we're not physically hungry. The first thing I think that's important for us to all remember is cravings are completely normal. They're not a sign that we're failing. It's not a sign that you failed. And they're certainly not a sign that you're lacking willpower. I think we can almost beat ourselves up. They're influenced by loads of factors. So things like our biology, our hormones, our habits, our emotions, where we live, the food that we've got in the cupboard, other people eating around us. Somebody was saying the other day that they're at work and, everyone in the office is eating very unhealthily and it feels very uncomfortable to be in an environment. I think that was last week. Somebody mentioned that all of these things will really trip us up or potentially trip us up. We have to be wide awake and very aware. We know we're living in an environment where food is basically available more or less everywhere. Well, would we call it food? Would we call it something else? That's another debate. We'll leave that on for another day. But we're surrounded as well. And I think I've been really reading about this and really thinking, putting a lot of attention into this sort of like advertising, social media images, supermarket promotions, television promotions, all focused on food. Maybe even the cooking programs. We're flooded with cooking programs. Some of them are great, some of them are really good fun, but actually, all the time we're being made to think about food. And I just wonder if you went back 50 years, that wouldn't be happening. And actually, I think that has a huge impact on our food noise, on those cravings, on making us think about food, on making us think, oh, I really fancy some of that. And goodness me, guess what? We all then suddenly find we're exploding with cravings, let alone what's going on in terms of our physiology. So we're going to talk about all of this today a little bit more and also think about some practical steps you can take to reduce them and to feel in control. I think this is a superly exciting and helpful webinar.
Mm.
So, Sanam.
I think I was touch on sort of, how stress impacts your cravings. So it's really important to sort of recognize that as well. So one of the key hormones that's involved in appetite regulation is a hormone called leptin. So leptin helps tell the brain that we've had enough to eat. So when leptin is working well, it helps us regulate fullness and stop eating and tell us when we've had enough. But when we're under chronic stress, that could be, and also sleeping poorly, carrying excess weight, or eating a diet that's high in ultra processed foods, this signaling can become less effective. So, in quite simple terms, we might feel less satisfied after eating and find it harder to recognize those fullness signals. And stress is an important factor to consider when it comes to cravings. So, when we're under stress, our body produces more cortisol. Now, this can increase hunger and disrupt your appetite regulation and increase cravings for foods high in salt, sugar, and fat. So if we think about it, when want to, reward ourselves. So when we're stressed, we might feel like, want to reward ourselves. So think about a difficult day. So you get home exhausted, you're not necessarily hungry, but you want something. So you want something comforting and something rewarding, something that helps you just switch off. And for many people, that becomes food. So for many of us who live in a constant state of low stress, and that could be a combination of factors. So it could be like work deadlines, and we're talking about sort of family responsibilities, financial pressures. We've got like poor sleep in the mix as well, and just general constant notifications and sort of noise from around the world around you, which can cause that low level of stress. So we were never designed to process this level of stimulation all day. So understanding this can help us move away from blame and recognize that cravings are actually often influenced by biology, habits, and our environment. And it's not simply just a lack of willpower. So later we'll look at practical ways to improve appetite regulation and reduce those cravings naturally. And understanding this can really help us move away from blame.
Yeah, and that's
So
important.
yeah, it's really important, isn't it? Because I think people just end up blaming themselves. Also, oh God, I've given into the cravings, but there's such a deeper biology behind it, and so much more going on in your body that's making you crave those foods and sort of have those sort of, and those low levels of stress do not help either. So I will then, yeah. So let's go with something, so, things to sort of help support your appetite control. So, like I mentioned, leptin plays a key role in regulating hunger and cravings. So, when leptin signals are working correctly, cravings are reduced. But then you've got factors like leptin resistance and low leptin levels and poor sleep and stress. These all can increase cravings, making it harder to control that food intake. So, managing lifestyle factors can really help improve leptin function and reduce cravings over time. So, I'll go with some of the lifestyle factors, but obviously, these are not all meant to all happen at the same time. So, there might be stages of helping improve certain parts of these lifestyle factors. It might not be possible for somebody to implement all of these all at once, and that's not the aim. So, it's just to help you recognize actually what's going on in your body and what factors are affecting these cravings. So, got balanced diet. So, it's good to prioritize protein, healthy fats, and fiber-rich foods to regulate your appetite. They've got regular exercise that helps improve leptin sensitivity and helps regulate hunger signals. And then quality sleep, we've got a whole webinar on that as well. So if you haven't looked into that, that's a really good one as well. So aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep to maintain leptin balance. And this is like me and Ruth were talking about before, avoiding processed sugars, which, chocolate has loads of. So reducing sugar intake helps decrease that leptin resistance. And then, like we mentioned earlier, manage stress. So chronic stress increases cortisol, which can disrupt leptin signaling and trigger cravings. So you notice from all of these that I've mentioned that none of these involve willpower. So it's really important to sort of recognize that this is not about willpower and just reframing it in a different way that that's not the key here. So
Mm.
for those maintaining, focus on keeping leptin sensitivity strong rather than pushing for more weight loss. So that's regular meals, movement, good sleep, help your hormones stay balanced, and that's what keeps cravings calm and your metabolism steady on a long-term basis. So I think Ruth will go into some of that sugars we talked about earlier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of leads really nicely into this slide. You may have seen this slide or something similar to this before in some of our other webinars, but it is such an important point and it really links very clearly to cravings. So it's really important for us to be thinking about this. So I want to start by asking if anyone has ever experienced a sort of mid-afternoon slump in their energy where you suddenly feel tired and you start looking for something sweet to sort of give you that boost, give you that sort of like pickup. I know I can put my hand up very quickly to that. Yes, as well, Charlene. Thank you. So at least two of us in the room today who are having that afternoon slump. I'm sort of like moving out of it now, thank goodness. Again, most days somebody is saying, so yes, thanks for admitting to that. It's sort of hard, isn't it? And you're absolutely not alone. I would imagine several people here would be experiencing an afternoon or an evening slump or a sort of like just that moment when your energy just leaves you and you just feel completely depleted and like you can't keep going. but it's only the middle of the day and you've still got hours before you can hit the sack. You've got several jobs to do, I'm sure, as well. So, one of the biggest drivers of craving is this whole unstable blood glucose, blood sugar. So, when we eat foods that are high in sugar or highly processed carbohydrates, they are broken down really quickly. And so then they enter the bloodstream really rapidly. So, the net effect of this is that it creates a spike in our blood sugars. Our blood sugars go up. So, you'd imagine you might be feeling great. And actually, the story is you generally will feel temporarily pretty good. But what happens in terms of what happens in our body is because our blood sugars have had a bit of a spike, as you can see on this red side of the chart, you're getting a sort of like a nice big high. You're feeling maybe temporarily a little bit boosted. That energy slump in the afternoon is beginning to dissipate. But what happens is that our body releases insulin to bring those blood sugar levels back down. We can then find that our blood sugar can fall actually quite quickly, and that can leave us feeling hungry. It can give us a bit of a headache. We can feel tired. We can feel a bit grumpy. If I'm honest, that hungry word comes into play here as well. And we'll find that we will start craving again. And we'll crave those quick win foods, the ones which are going to give us the immediate energy. And you can almost find that you're getting into this sort of blood sugar roller coaster pattern. Many people we know will recognize this pattern. Maybe they've started the day with less protein at breakfast time. We have a great propensity in the UK, especially in America as well, to be eating cereals for breakfast or toast for breakfast with jam on. So, guess what? They're going to have that blood sugar high. You're going to have the blood sugar low mid morning. You're going to notice a big dip. So, all of these things are really important to be thinking about. If you have the dip mid-morning, guess what we all generally do in the UK? We have a nice cup of coffee and we might have something like a nice chocolatey biscuit to go with it. And hey presto, our blood sugars come crashing back up and crashing back down again. And we just on this repeating cycle, it's a roller coaster ride. It's a roller coaster ride for our blood sugars. It will leave us feeling really depleted, really exhausted. We'll have cravings on and off all through the day. And the dips are when the cravings become their strongest. So many people we know will feel trapped in a cycle of craving, eating for that temporary relief, and then guess what? Start craving again. So it's sort of like a nasty pattern, one to really try and figure if that's going on for you and whether you can break out of it. In contrast, if you look at the green side of the chart, these sort of is how we would expect our blood sugars to show up for us if we're eating sort of the balanced plate, really and truly, if we're actually balancing our snacks as well. Snacks are something we would say wind your way away from as much as possible. But realistically, you can't go from somebody who snacks all of the time to somebody who never snacks. So it's about building those snacks in a way that actually is going to help you create a more even energy through the day, a more steadier blood glucose response. So foods that we would recommend eating here will come as no surprise. Have a look at the GLP-1 builder. Have a look at the core meal plans. All of the foods that you will see there are what we would want you to put to get over onto this green side. You might have to start slowly. So think about protein and fiber. They are your absolute friends, and healthy fats. So fiber, we're thinking about coming from those colourful vegetables as much as possible because they are low sugar in terms of how they impact our blood glucose. Protein really helps in terms of blood sugar stability as well. We want enough. We don't want too much. We don't want too little. So it's sort of like finding the right balance for you. And if we can get over on this green side more often, if we can create the plate that helps us get on that green side, what you'll find is your cravings will become much easier to manage. Now, this can take 2 or 3 weeks to really, really bed in. And we know that changing our habits around food can take a lot longer than that. But just think every time you eat over on the green side is a step in the right direction. And even if you have the occasional wobble, what you could do is pop in something rich in protein to help balance things out as much as possible. This isn't about restriction, it's about creating meals that work with your body and not against it, and with you in terms of your energy, and really to give you that sustained energy, get rid of those dips, and to really get rid of those ongoing cravings because we know that they're really, really tricky. So let's have a look. I can see there's some questions creeping into the chat box. If possible, do pop your questions as much as possible into the Q&A box. We will try and find them later on in the chat box as well, but it really helps us work out where to go with the questions in a little while. So let's have a look around this story of emotional cravings. So I think we started off the webinar by saying cravings are generally for a specific food. They're nothing to do with hunger at all. You can actually have completely finished a meal and then find that you're craving something in particular. There it is. There's the craving. The feeling where you're genuinely ready to eat and almost any food would do. That's hunger. Cravings are different. Cravings are usually really specific. You just want that specific food. It might be chocolates, it might be crisps, it might be cake, it could be ice cream, crisps. Please note, we generally rarely find anyone who's craving apples. Maybe people who are pregnant, we might find that occasionally, mightn't we, Sanam? But
Yeah.
generally, when we talk to people, it is all of these sort of less healthy, the more sort of processed foods, the more high sugar foods. They're the ones we have learned to rely on that get us out of that dip. If we're craving that particular food, this tells us something important. This is being driven by something much more than physical hunger. We know that highly processed foods tend to be those that are really rewarding. They give us that instant reward. They're often high in sugar, they're high in fat, they're high in salt, and they can stimulate our brain's reward pathways. So this is really important. So this isn't you failing. This is about how your brain is wired. It wants that quick win. It wants the reward. This is nothing to do with willpower at all. It's about understanding how our brains work, how the environment makes a difference to how all of this comes together for us. The other side of the coin here is that many manufacturers are now producing these snacks in a way which has got something called a bliss point. I don't know if you've heard of this before. We do talk about this in the webinars, so you may have heard about it elsewhere or here. And the bliss point is where they've created a food where it's got the completely perfect combination of sugar, fat, and salt. And that combination, we now know scientifically, maximizes the enjoyment of that food and encourages us to eat more and more and more of it. So things like cakes, biscuits, donuts, crisps. I know in my house, if we have like a family pack or something, they will go so quickly. It's not like it's going to last for the week that you intended it to last for, because guess what? The enjoyment factor is high and we love the reward and the feeling that those foods give us. So they're highly appealing, they're engineered to be highly appealing, and they're very, very easy to overeat. We also, as I was saying earlier, we live where food is available literally everywhere. We don't just eat real food anymore. We also watch food, we scroll through food, we see food in advertisements, we're surrounded by recipes, promotions, social media. Even when we're not physically hungry, we get these constant cues that can trigger us to think about eating. And it's known that this can increase our cravings as well. And this can contribute to that really all important food noise that we talk about a lot. We know a lot of people who are trying to lose weight will find food noise can be something that really trips you up, trips all of us up. So, really, sometimes food and getting the mental space from food is really important. There are lots of things we're going to talk through that we can do to help with this. So let's get this really clear. Clear cravings are nothing to do with a sign of weak willpower. They're influenced by our biology, our habits, our environment, our emotions, and also stress, we know can play a major role. So this is really important. When we're feeling tired, when we're feeling overwhelmed, lonely, bored, frustrated, guess what? Food can be our saving grace, can't it? It can be the thing that gives us that comfort, the reward, gives us the little lift, helps us to keep going through the rest of the day. Lots of us are beginning to recognize that this is the pattern we're in. And it's really important. It can be a difficult day at work, an argument, a stressful week, and suddenly food is the answer, not because we're hungry, but because we're looking for comfort. So there's loads that we can do. We need to begin by understanding what our triggers are and also start thinking about what you could do differently when those triggers happen. So is it that you need to take 5 minutes outside, break the sort of cycle? Just actually 2 or 3 minutes can break that moment. Move the treats in your house. If you have to have treats in your house for other people, then move them somewhere so it's unfamiliar and move it again. Just move it every week so that when you go automatically to that space to grab that treat in that moment of that craving, it's not there. Actually putting in the pause of it being somewhere different can really take a different reach. You can come up with the sort of like, okay, I'm going to go and get some fresh air. I'm going to clean my teeth. I'm going to go and do a Sudoku. I'm going to go and do something to distract me. And it really is important for us to structure our sort of whole thinking around this because actually, this is really important. We need to take small, simple steps, understand the triggers, think about what we can do differently when that trigger happens. And I'd really like to know how many of you crave something specific rather than just feeling hungry. And if so, what is it that you crave? I think it's time for us to own up to what's going on. For me, it used to be chocolate. Now, maybe not so much. But maybe actually in that moment, yeah, chocolate. Chocolate. I reckon we could have a poll here. Who craves chocolate? Who craves tiramisu? My goodness me, that's a strong craving. Chocolate's winning. Anyone getting the pizza? Okay, something sweet, anything sweet. Pickled gherkins. I love that. I actually think I am trying to move my cravings over to olives now because they're actually so healthy and I really like them. Bizarre. Crisps until I feel sick. I'm sorry to hear that. It's really hard. We know how hard this is. And you also look at you, you all know how hard this is. So we're talking about something people really know. Bread with something sweet. Yeah, I'm a bit of a bread girl, I have to admit. Olives and crisps and a glass of wine or a wee beer. Okay, all right. We hear you. Thank you for telling us. It's really helpful. You're not alone. We know this is a big issue for many people, and we want to bring your attention to it and help as much as we can, don't we, Sanam?
Yeah, exactly. And especially this will become even more important, which leads us on to the maintenance phase and how we manage these cravings and what we can do to help maintain any progress that we've made. So again, you don't feel demotivated. So one thing we see that cravings do become more noticeable during maintenance. Not because that anything's gone wrong, but because the structure that maybe supported your weight loss can gradually sort of wither away and fade away. So during the active weight loss phases, you'll probably notice yourselves, throughout your weight loss process, that many people are checking in regularly. So you tend to check in regularly with what you're eating, you're following a meal plan, you're attending webinars like this, planning meals, and just monitoring your progress in general. And there's usually a clear sense of focus and direction when you initially start off. But once you get to the maintenance phase, your confidence has grown and it becomes more tempting to lose some of those habits that you formed, those really good habits that you formed. And that's completely normal. So there's nothing, to sort of beat yourself up about. That's completely normal. But however, when structures do fade, those old habits and eating patterns can quietly begin to reappear. So that can include stuff like, you might notice that you're grazing more in the evenings, which is maybe something you used to do before. You might start skipping meals and maybe purchasing more convenience foods or just responding to stress with food again. And these are slight sort of habits that tend to creep back in that you almost don't notice that you've started to do them again. So it doesn't mean that you failed, it just means that these habits need ongoing attention. So maintenance is not about continuing to lose weight forever. You'll wither away if you did, but it's about creating stability. So one approach that can help is setting a weight stability goal rather than a weight loss goal. So instead of asking yourself, how can I lose more weight? Just reframe it and ask, what habits help me maintain the progress I've already achieved? So that can be small check-ins that can make a big difference. So just checking in and seeing how you're doing, maybe at the end of the week, or whether it's daily, weekly, or just regularly. You can do them as like weekly reflections. You might want to do a meal planning session. So just plan for the week. That makes it easier and takes the stress away from sort of having to plan every day what you're going to eat and things like that. And it's also a hydration reminder. Just remember to drink again. So you might have, when you've lost quite a bit of weight and then you forget, actually, I do need to keep on drinking and keep hydrated. That's really important as well. And just review your food diary. So it might be that you've even stopped keeping a food diary, but just getting that back into motion, just review your food diary and see what you've been eating in that week. And that can help sometimes sort of identify those things which are triggering your cravings. So they're really, really powerful tools in helping identify what foods are making you crave more than other foods. So, and that will sort of give you that focus, so that might reassign that sort of focus that you might have. And again, just attending webinars like this one. Simple habits help keep your healthy routines visible and active. So it's important to remember that healthy food should be easy to access while treats should be planned rather than forbidden. So we're not saying, you can never have a treat again. So it's more to do with keep healthier foods around you. So I know from my son who loves sweets, there was a pack of sweets on that counter. Every day he'd come, can I have some? And I thought, let me try. I'm going to move them away, put them in the drawer right on the top shelf, and stuff some fruits in the fridge. So he'd come home now and look around and just go to the fridge, take strawberries, which is his favorite, and never asked for those sweets because they just weren't there. And he just didn't remember to ask for them. So it's just that sort of nudging that you get when you've got those different types of treats and snacks around you. So it's important to sort of put those healthier foods. So if you do feel like, you snack a bit, maybe put something a bit healthier to snack on around you. And we're not aiming for perfection. That's impossible. Unless anybody has achieved it, that'd be great to share with us. But we're aiming for more consistency. So consistency is what protects long-term success. So some days will be easier than others, and we need to recognize that. The goal is not to avoid cravings completely because inevitably you are going to have some cravings. That's not unusual and it's common. The goal is to recognize them, respond thoughtfully, and keep putting one foot in front of the other. So it is gradual, but it's just being aware and having that response yourselves to those cravings. So has anyone noticed that cravings become more challenging once the novelty or focus of weight loss has started to wear off? Has anybody noticed that within themselves, or is that something you've not picked up on?
Yeah, I'd be
Be
really
great to
interested
pop it
to.
into the chat, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is. Novelty is a really interesting word, isn't it? Like when things are novel, it's amazing how our focus is maybe slightly different. So maybe novelty is an important thing to be thinking about too, creating novel snacks or, moving things around just to help you. So, what can you eat? How to eat to avoid cravings? Well, it is all about getting your head around that core meal plan or the core GLP meal plan. We want you to be thinking about building your plate so that it is balanced. It's got that protein. We talk about protein being a minimum really of 1 gram per kilogram of your current body weight. This needs to happen. Absolutely. It really helps in terms of blood sugar management, insulin sensitivity, building, helping you to build healthy body composition. All of these things are really, we build all of these things and we want us to rebuild over these weight loss journeys. It's really important we come out of this in a fighting fit state that our bodies are ready to maintain that weight loss as much as possible. So it's not just the here and the now, not just the cravings, it's about the future as well. So, one of the most effective strategies for managing cravings is about blood sugar balance. We can't say this strongly enough. So, we have shared the links to the core meal plan and the GLP-1 meal plan. If you can't see those and you need those again, please ask in the chat box. Again, as you were saying, Sanam, is not about restriction, it's about finding foods that you can learn to love, that keep you energized, keep your appetite under control. With that protein, you want to split that amount across those 3 meals a day and even put a little bit in with your snacks as well. Starting the day with a protein-rich breakfast can really help reduce hunger and cravings later in the day. So actually, how we set our day up can make a huge difference. Sleep is really important. We've got a whole webinar on sleep, so I'm not going to go into that, but we know that we will have more cravings if we sleep less well. So let's talk about that. There's a whole replay of that webinar, so take a look at that if that's relevant to you. Hydration is also really important. Sometimes we can confuse hunger as when it's actually thirst. So we can sort of almost learn to ignore our thirst signals and read them as hunger signals. This is always really good if you're feeling hungry very quickly after a meal, maybe to think about having a drink, having some water with some lemon in, really finding something that you can enjoy. We know that lemon contains some plant compounds called polyphenols, and there is a little bit of research that suggests that polyphenols can help support our blood glucose and our blood sugar balance. Similarly, there's some emerging research suggesting that apple cider vinegar may also help to promote blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity. They're not great big trials, but there is small amounts of emerging research, and no one is going to be paying, unfortunately, for huge trials around these. There's not much money to be made in apple cider vinegar and lemon. They're not magic solutions, but they can be helpful additions alongside a healthy eating strategy. The other strategy we would really direct you to is thinking about that mindful eating, about chewing your food, slowing down when you're eating. We know, I know from speaking to lots and lots of people over many years as a healthcare practitioner that people eat very quickly. And actually, when we eat very quickly, it can take a lot longer to digest and to get those nutritional benefits from our food. So, slowing down, really important. Make that core meal plan your anchor as much as possible, something you can return to the majority of the time. You don't have to be perfect, but actually just getting the core there as much as possible can help you feel your best. Go for those balanced meals, protein at breakfast, and plan ahead. We know those little strategies can make all the difference. So let's just quickly whiz through these last couple of slides, Sanam, because we want to leave time to get to the questions, don't we?
Yeah, so honestly, sort of cravings are something to fight. It'd be helpful to sort of see them as something to become a bit more curious about. So a craving is often just information. So it's a signal. And the question is, what is the signal trying to tell us? So one of the most powerful things that you could do is simply pause and check in with yourself. So just ask yourself, am I physically hungry or am I feeding a feeling? So sometimes the answer is hunger, and that's fine. And that if that's the case, eating is exactly the right thing to do. But sometimes a craving is being driven by something else. So as we discussed a lot of it, stress, tiredness, boredom, loneliness, habit, or simply just being surrounded by food cues all the time. So over time, it can become helpful to recognize your own patterns. That's what we mentioned, that diary before as well might become useful with that. And do cravings appear at particular times of the day, or are they after difficult meetings, or when you're tired, or when you've skipped a meal, or when you've been scrolling on social media looking at food? And be good to sort of be really aware of when these cravings happen. The more awareness we build, the more control we gain, so we know how to tackle these cravings. So being organized also helps. So it's much easier to make healthy choices when healthy choices are readily available. So having nutritious snacks, balanced meals, and planned options available reduces the likelihood of those impulsive decision craving strikes. And mindful eating is also a valuable tool. So just try slowing down, taste your food, notice the flavors and textures, and pay attention to your body's hunger and fullness signals. So even when food is delicious, practice recognizing the point where you feel comfortably satisfied. So not to continue eating, but actually you feel satisfied. So some people almost, continue to eat, but you can actually be very conscious of when you're actually satisfied with your meal. Like mentioned earlier, so some people find food diaries really helpful. So just pinpointing when you get cravings and what causes those cravings. And it's not a tool for judgment at all. This is just a tool for awareness to give you that sort of empowerment to sort of tackle those cravings. They can help identify patterns between emotions, situations, and eating habits. And sometimes the most effective response to a craving is not food it's not food at all. So it might be a short walk, a cup of tea, calling a friend, just a bit of distraction. So a few minutes outside or breathing exercise. So these simple distraction techniques often allow the intensity of the craving to pass. So once it's passed, you can sort of, be conscious of actually, I've done pretty well there. So those maintaining weight loss cravings can still show up from time to time. That's expected and not unusual at all. So especially during periods of stress, tiredness, or change, that isn't failure at all. It's feedback. So it's an opportunity to pause and ask, what do I need right now? Is it food? Is it rest? Is it connection? Or do I just need a bit of calm? Responding with curious and kindness is far more effective than responding with guilt. So would love to hear if you could share in the chat box. What's one thing that you're going to do differently to help manage cravings this week?
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you, Sanam. We just have one more slide and we'll be coming to your questions. So I can see I have a lot of questions, so we'll whizzle through this as much as possible, but it is an important area. We want to be thinking about that mindset and maintenance. This is such an important thing. We probably have quite a few people now who are joining us in that maintenance stage or about to head into maintenance. So we really want to put some attention there. And our aim is that you all get to that stage. So this is important really for everyone because we need to start recognizing this is a stage all of its own. So really start thinking about what you can do to live in a way that supports your long-term health. And one or two of the things that we can do is perhaps think about creating healthy habits that can really sort of like hold us where we want to be. I've seen in the chat box somebody would like us to share the GLP-1 handout again. If you could do that, Chantal, that would be great. Really start thinking about your why, really get your motivation, thinking about what is important for you to maintain this stage. You're here, you've achieved it. Why is this important to stay there? What is it? What is it you feel so much better about than you did before? It's about now about living really where awareness of that success, freedom from all of those old cycles that got you where you didn't want to be. Yeah, really be interested to hear what's going on for you. So just to let you know, we are going to be back again next Monday. We're going to be looking at meal planning, which works really nicely with cravings, I think, because meal planning is going to be a strategy that can really support us and maybe turn off some of that food noise, which is really important. Um, and yes, you will be able to watch the webinar again. I know a few people have said we will share the link. The link will come out of the recording. Somebody from the wider team will send that out later on in the week. So yeah, do come along. We've got a whole webinar on the 22nd with myself and Samantha. We will be just answering your questions, and we know that questions are really important for you to ask. And then mastering your stress. So stress is important for you to get your heads around and how to manage it. Please do let us know. We're going to come to your questions now. Chantal, if you can share the weight loss phase poll, we'll just do that while we're orientating ourselves to your questions. We now have the ability to look at those questions that have been upvoted. So what we're trying to do now is, because time is short and there are lots of people at the webinars now each week, we're trying very much to go with the ones initially that have been upvoted the most. And also we will just flick through and see if there's anything that's important for us to pick up on. So, all right, don't worry about the poll. I'll find it in a second. So thank you, Chantal. I don't know where that's gone then. Oh, there you go. There you are. I'm just going to launch the poll. Just interested to know, again, this is completely anonymous, just to find out where you are in your weight loss journey. So thank you. Sorry about that, Chantal. Don't know why it was hiding. It was definitely there. It was hiding in plain sight. So let's have a look at the first question that's got the most votes. So how do you balance staying at the ideal weight without gaining or losing more? I would say that it is about, Sanam, would you agree with this? I would say set not a specific weight, but a weight range. So maybe a half a stone weight range, or a 3 to 4 kilos weight range, so that you are happy to stay within that sort of like what would you call that range?
Yeah, yeah, with that sort of deviation, what do they call it? It's in a mathematical, boring term.
Yeah,
That's sort of
just
almost like
very
that, but yeah, because you want to, weight does change quite, some
yeah,
people it can change quite dramatically in a week, can't it? It can go up. Some people can easily gain a kilo and lose a kilo in a week.
yeah,
So it depends on how fast and how sort of slow you sort of gain weight. If you're generally quite, tend a while to gain weight or lose weight, then it might be a little bit easier in that sense to sort of maintain an exact sort of range that you want to stay in. But I think a range is normally a good idea.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. And also,
yeah,
there are some foods which for one of us, when we eat it, we will suddenly find it creates a bit of an inflammatory response in our body. We might find we weigh much heavier for a couple of days, and then it will just settle down. So we don't want the scales to be the thing. We want you to maybe also be thinking about, okay, I wake up in the morning and I've got energy. I'm sleeping really well. My blood sugar balance is great. I'm not craving anymore, or I only crave when I've got major stress going on or when I haven't slept, beginning to see those associations is really important too. So have a think about what else you could focus on that isn't those numbers on the scale, because I think maybe it's just actually fitting comfortably in clothes and not feeling like they're uncomfortable. I think for many people that can be really helpful as well. So somebody's saying, so thank you. I can see from the poll that around 50% of you are midway through. We've got about 35% of you who are just at the beginning of your journeys, and around 15% are maintaining. So well done to all of you for being here, and good luck with all of those journeys. It's hard wherever you are. I think let's get rid of any fallacy that this is easy, because we know it's really not. Yeah. Well done, everyone, and thank you for being here today. So, next question. I've come off Manjaro after losing 3.5 stone and now around your goal. Not really noticed much difference with cravings. They never really went away. Okay, well, that's interesting and that's good to know in a way. Wondering what Manjaro does apart from cravings issue. Why is it that people put on weight again? Is it to do with cravings or something biological, physiological? Crikey, that's a long question and it deserves a bit of attention and a longish answer. Do you want to start and I'll jump in as well, Sanam, or where do you want to go?
Yeah, so is this when they stop, when you stop
Yeah,
Manjaro? So once you stop your body, that's it stops the GLP hormone, which makes you feel, delays the sort of the gastric emptying and makes you feel fuller for longer. So when you come off that, if you've established good sort of habits around your eating and those sort of are already eating those foods that help reduce those cravings and help you keep fuller for longer, it's a little bit easier when you do come off the injections. But it is likely that when you do come off the injections, these sort of cravings will come back because you don't have that hormone anymore, that sort of mimicking that hormone in your body anymore. So your body is now naturally using its natural hormones, which are in a lot lower levels than what you would get in the GLP injections. So the levels are a lot lower, but that doesn't mean that you can't use your natural sort of body hormones, but you need to actually emphasize and sort of focus in on the foods that you're eating that will help keep you fuller because you now have not got, that GLP sort of injection to help with the higher levels of hormone than what you would naturally get. So that's why I normally say throughout your journey and once you're on the injections, just try and establish those eating habits with those foods that are going to keep you fuller for longer, the fibers, the protein. And once you've established that, that's sort of help when you come off the injections because you already have those sort of habits and your body's already used to having those foods and sort of reducing those cravings. What do you think, Ruth?
yeah, I agree. And I think it's well, we talk about this quite a lot really as a team as well, isn't it? It's
Mm.
you have your body has a set point. So this is the psychology. And actually one of the things that can happen when we've lost weight successfully and when we start being on a diet, whether that's we've taken a medication or not, we know that people's behavior will change quite dramatically in that diet phase. And this is something we want to move people away from. We almost want you to create those habits of eating away in a way that can be for weight loss, but also continued following weight loss. But I think physiologically, your body is going to try and want to get you back to that previous weight as a safety mechanism. It's trying to look after you. And it takes a little while. It can take a few months for that set point to recalibrate down. So I think we just have to be prepared. Sometimes we can feel really hungry, maybe try drinking a little bit more, making sure you're nailing the protein, maybe making sure you're going to the gym or doing some exercise at home, using some weights, doing some resistance. All of those things can really help. If we've got good muscle mass, we'll have more calories that we can burn. It can help with a healthy basal metabolic rate, which really helps in terms of maintaining that healthy weight as well. We've got webinars on all of these subjects, so come along to any of them that are relevant to you or all of them, because hopefully you'll hear something that will help every time. Somebody's saying they're craving salt. Would you recommend using electrolytes? Would this reduce the craving for salt? That's really interesting. I don't know why specifically we crave salt. Sometimes I've read it's because it's when we're really stressed, we might be craving a little bit of salt. Maybe our adrenal glands need some support. I would just say try some Himalayan crystal salt, maybe just a little bit in water first thing once a day in the morning and see. You can buy electrolytes. You have to make sure that you use a really nice natural electrolytes. There's a few that are on the market that have got a lot of extra sugar and things in with them as well. And so they're good if you're in a sort of gym situation where you're building muscle and you're doing lots of physical work, you maybe use that glucose in that for that. But if you're just doing it as something to reduce a craving, then it's not going to be the thing for you at all. So try some Himalayan crystal salt and see how you get on with that. Would you agree with that, Sanam?
Yeah, because it was sort of the rehydration sessions and stuff are more designed for people using losing other sort of chemicals in their body to help replenish those. So if it's just the salt part of it, the craving probably still won't taste the same. So they're not going to taste the same as your normal salt. So
Okay,
I agree.
cool. There's a question here from somebody saying for those people who have type 2 diabetes and also polymetabolic ovarian syndrome, whether they may find it harder to lose weight, number one, whether they're on a GLP-1 medication, whether they would need higher doses to lose weight. Have we got any research specifically to
I
that?
haven't come across any research for that, and it's not unusual for someone with PMOS to find it difficult to lose weight than maybe somebody who hasn't got it. Um, there's not any evidence around that, but there is loads of functions within your body, like some we've discussed today, which help with the weight loss and how much you can lose. You know, when we've got leptin resistance, low levels of leptin, so it's hard to tell sort of what's causing slower weight loss. So it's really hard to sort of pinpoint whether somebody's diabetic and not maybe not lose as much weight as somebody who's not diabetic. I haven't come across any research on that either. So
Anecdotally, I've worked with people within our world, and they don't seem to need to be on high doses. And I think that's much more an individualized journey, isn't it? Rather than
yeah.
a very specific condition.
Depends on your response. So it
Yeah,
depends on
yeah.
your personal response to the injections.
People do really well on the lower doses. Other people need to go up to the sort of slightly higher doses to really see the beneficial effect. But I think alongside the medication, try and change those food habits, because one of the things that's going on is a real propensity to insulin resistance. So we want you to be eating in a way to really support your blood glucose, because that's going to be the cornerstone of long-term health for you. So hopefully that will be helpful, and is again, there's not really a huge amount of research yet. I think in 5 years we'll probably see some, but we've got a long wait. It's very new, really, isn't it, for us to understand all of that. Do you want to take another question? Can you see the questions, Sanam?
Yes, so I've got one about Hashimoto. I think this one you'd have to probably fill in a sort of a questionnaire just to give an all-rounded whether you'd be suitable for weight loss treatment or not. Generally, thyroid issues aren't usually a problem, but there might be something that might be flagged in your questionnaire. So I probably recommend you go online and fill one in. Um, You've got one. You're new to taking Manjaro, took the first dose last Wednesday, still struggling with cravings and appetite. And you had about 3 episodes of nausea, sickness, feeling, and some constipation. It's very early days. You'll start feeling less hungry as time goes on. Yeah, I mean, you took your first dose last Wednesday. It's still quite soon, to be honest. Your levels of GLP do build up in your system over the weeks. So by around about 4 weeks, you'll probably plateau in the amount of GLP that you have in your system. So initially, it might be that the lower dose may not actually be as effective for you. Like we discussed, it does vary between individuals. But we do normally say, if it's causing you a bit of side effects, you might want to stick on it for little bit longer, but you're not going to get the maximum effects most likely that it can achieve within the first week. Fairly close to it, but you can still go until about sort of about 4 weeks or something and see how you go on it. And if your nausea and side effects settle, you can then consider whether, you want to increase in dose. And importantly, just make sure, sort of those lifestyle changes as well. Be conscious of which ones you're making and when
Yeah.
you're getting cravings and stuff as well.
Yeah, and don't forget we've got a Boots Online Doctor tracker app, which is really helpful for tracking all of these things too. So if you haven't downloaded that, Chantal, if you could share the link, that would be great. I've just seen somebody's asking what do we recommend as a high protein breakfast. So things I would think of immediately would be things like eggs or Greek yogurt with some berries, maybe some nuts thrown in there. Not necessarily, I wouldn't eat eggs with nuts personally, but separated out, separate courses perhaps. You could even have fish. So some delicious oily fish would be great with some avocado. Maybe if you're vegetarian, things like some scrambled tofu would be great to consider. So it really depends on your personal food preferences, but it is also about really nailing that protein. So I'm moving away from the cereals and the toast as much as we possibly can. I noticed somebody said that they had bought some high protein bread and were having that with scrambled eggs. So that sounds great. So one slice of bread, some scrambled eggs, perfect. Maybe a few mushrooms and a few tomatoes for the vegetable and the fiber component, and you'll be doing really well. Um, Somebody's asking if it's possible that you might not have a sense of fullness, irrespective of how much you eat, and that they don't feel they're they're full. And I think yes, absolutely. This all goes hand in hand with that whole leptin resistance. We know that people who are leptin resistant, which isn't something we talk about a lot in society, may be one of the key components of that. So again, it's about doing all of the things we talked about today. It's about building your plate, it's about the sleep, the stress management, making sure you're drinking adequately, um, all of those things. It's sort of there is no one thing that is going to get you out of that situation. And there is no one thing that's going to be an overnight fix. And I think from working with people who are insulin resistant or leptin resistant or both, it is about consistency and doing those things as much as you can every week. And then in a few weeks' time, you'll begin to notice things beginning to shift. And in some cases, that can take a few months, and that can be really hard. And that's why we don't want you to practice perfection. We don't want you to be worrying about calories. We want you to learn to eat those foods that you can eat every day and get where you want to go in the long run. It's really not easy. We're not saying that at all, but I think that's where I would want you to head.
Got another one here. I think
Yeah.
there's one of constant cravings for me when you're linked to food noise. Less about emotions and stress works for a while, but then the alarm starts up again. So, mental alarm cannot be silenced until you eat that chocolate bar. So, I think it's similar to what we mentioned a little bit earlier in the webinar. So, distraction techniques might help. So, whether that's going for a walk, until that noise calms down, it generally tends to calm down. But I think when you um, hear those noises, it might be good really to establish like what's causing them. Is there anything particularly in that day? Like, has it been a stressful day and things like that? But also just distract yourself. So go for a walk, do some breathing exercises and see how that works well for you.
Yeah, yeah. So somebody's saying they crave salt and chewy, crunchy foods and struggle to find alternatives. You could make yourself, I don't know if you cook, but you could make yourself something like some protein balls. They're brilliant. You can put things in them to give them that crunch as well. So maybe you could put some roasted oats in those, which would give it a bit of a crunchy texture. The other thing I'm thinking are nuts, brilliant. Make some, make some nuts, cook them, put some tamari over them or some soy sauce that brings the saltiness in a sort of less unhealthy way. Those would work really well for me. I was thinking of something else, but it's gone out of my mind.
You do like, I normally do those, yeah, you can do those nut bars as well, but you can put, if you
Yeah.
want, use dark chocolate or something. So that is, that add a bit of, they normally quite work out quite well as well. And chewing's good. So the more you sort of spend time chewing, that normally helps with your leptin levels.
So somebody's saying that they really struggle with food noise from not so much TV and digital stuff, but when they pass by restaurants or kebab shops. I think this is it. It's the environment. It doesn't help us, does it? Maybe walk a different route. If you can avoid the kebab shop and the restaurants, that would be great. Don't forget, if you've got a medically orientated question, we really can't pick up on those in a generic webinar for everybody. So let's think about what you can do is you can email in and ask our team if you're a Boots Online Doctor customer. And if you're not a Boots Online Doctor customer, just please email your prescribing team. It's so important that you get the support, and that's why we're absolutely here for you. And we are sharing a feedback link. If we haven't already, then we would really welcome your feedback, both of what you'd like to hear more of, what you'd like less of. We really want to be here for you and we want to be guided by you as much as possible. We won't get to all of the questions. I'm just skinning through them quickly to see what's going on. Somebody's saying they've only lost 3 weeks and on 2 weeks of Wegovy. I'm a little disappointed as I expected. More weight loss. We see this a lot. And thank you for asking that question. We expect and want you to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. So £3 for us is a win. I hope it can become a win for you. I know on TikTok and on social media, people are losing stones and pounds and more stones and more pounds every week. We literally know that that's what we're being flooded with as the norm. Really and truly, slow weight loss is what we want you to achieve by eating in a way that is really long term, because we know that slower weight loss is the weight loss that's going to stay off, don't we, Sanam? So, literally, really tough, really tough. So sorry you're feeling demoralized. We're feeling happy. I'm sorry that that's not quite what you wanted to hear. And we don't want you to accelerate, but really start. We've got webinars all about how to eat and what to eat, and there are replays of those. So take a look at those if you need some more support around thinking around those. They will run again later on this year, maybe September time, and we're putting those back on again because they're really important, and it's really important to get our heads around what's going to help us. The recordings, Chantal, if you can share the link for the previous recordings, we can give you the link now, Laura. So you should be able to access those as well. Quick last questions from both of us. Sanam, anything you want to pick up on here? Have you had a quick look through? Somebody's saying about thinning hair.
Oh, yes, thinning hair. So if you're a Boots Online doctor customer, you can message us about that as well. But thinning hair could be due to the nutrients that we're taking in.
Okay, have I lost you or have you lost me? Something's frozen. I'm not sure who we can't hear.
Nutritional balance. So just make sure you are eating the right foods to help maintain that nutritional balance. So avoid sort of like less likely to get that weight loss. So if you're not taking maybe additional vitamins as well, that might be quite a good idea, just like a multivitamin or something to help support.
Yeah, on the GLP-1 meal plan, there is actually a link to a multivitamin that they sell in Boots. It's very inexpensive. So do have a look at that. At the bottom of the meal plan, there is actually a link. Somebody is asking about constipation with higher doses of weight loss medication. If you're a Boots Online doctor customer, please email us. We will answer your email and give you some specific advice. Again, with people who are feeling nauseous or sick, or with constipation, or, if you feel that your symptoms are more acute and really you need urgent advice, don't hesitate to reach out for urgent advice from your GP. We will 100%, if it's something you can manage but you're feeling unwell, let us know. We will do our best to guide you around what to do. So sorry we can't pick up all of the questions. I think we've generally found most of the trends. I say thank you so much for your time and attention. We're just over the 2 o'clock, so I think we're going to have to cut off here. We will be back next week. Um, Eat your breakfast, even if you're not hungry, if you can. Yeah, that's my last comment. Sanam, thank you so much for being here. Chantal, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to everyone who has joined us and stayed with us for the hour. We really appreciate your time, and we absolutely want to support you as much as we can on these journeys. We know it's really tricky times at times, and just stick with it. You will get there. And remember, it's consistency, it's not perfection, isn't it? Take care, everyone. Bye, Sana.
Bye.